WWE used to create megastars. The glass would shatter, and before Stone Cold Steve Austin even stepped through the curtain, we knew all hell was about to break loose and someone was getting a stunner. The Rock would grab a microphone, and even if he cut a promo for 15 minutes, we hung on every word and didn't spend a single second of it bored. The arena would fall dark, the gong would hit, and The Undertaker would walk out like some kind of supernatural final boss. These weren't just popular wrestlers, they were larger than the industry itself. But today, WWE is bigger than it has ever been. The company is making record revenue and the arenas are still selling out. But yet, something feels missing. Because despite having one of the most talented rosters in history, WWE hasn't created a megastar on that level in nearly 2 decades. To understand the problem, we have to remember just how stacked the WWE roster was back then. A random episode of WWE television would have names like Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Batista, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. And these were just some of the names on the card. JBL, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Kane, The Undertaker. I mean, even the tag team division felt important back then. We had the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys having TLC matches, doing insane things that we'd never seen before. That was the reality of WWE's roster. But the key difference wasn't just the talent, it was their presence. We felt like we were watching people who could take over the entire industry if they wanted to. Every single person felt like a star in their own story, and not one of them felt like a ripoff of somebody else. There was also something happening during that era that's very easy to forget. Wrestling wasn't just popular, it was mainstream culture. Like during the peak of the Attitude Era, Monday Night Raw regularly pulled in between 7 and 8 million viewers every single week. But today, Raw typically averages closer to 1.5 to 2 million. We're not talking about a ratings drop, that's a cultural shift. Back then, we would see Stone Cold Steve Austin t-shirts everywhere. The Rock's catchphrases were quoted in schools, and even people who didn't watch wrestling knew exactly who these guys were because they were household names. The Rock eventually went on to become one of the biggest movie stars in the world, but even before Hollywood, those wrestlers already felt larger than life. Wrestling wasn't just producing performers, it was producing icons, and that kind of superstardom has become incredibly rare today. If you spend 5 minutes reading wrestling forums today, we'll see the same conversation coming up over and over. Fans aren't saying today's wrestlers are bad. In fact, most people would agree that the athletic level is probably higher than it's ever been. But what fans do keep saying is something much simpler. Nobody feels like a megastar anymore. One fan on Reddit summed it up perfectly. WWE stopped building stars and the brand has become the star instead. And another wrote, they call themselves superstars, but no one actually feels like one. And once fans start noticing something like that, it's impossible for us to unsee, because the more we watch modern WWE, the more it feels like the machine is the attraction and not the people within it. Now, a lot of lifelong fans believe this started because of Vince McMahon himself. Vince always built the WWE around huge personalities. Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Brock Lesnar, but those personalities eventually became bigger than the company itself. Bret Hart left for WCW, The Rock left for Hollywood, Austin became impossible to control creatively, once even refusing to lose to Brock Lesnar at King of the Ring, packing his bag and flying home, and then wasn't seen on television for over a year. And even Brock Lesnar himself upped and left to try his hand at American football. Because once someone reaches that level of fame, WWE can't fully control them anymore. So over time, we as fans started noticing a pattern. Instead of building stars bigger than the company, WWE started protecting the company itself. Now, whether this shift was intentional or not, the result was the same. The brand is now the main attraction, and the wrestlers are just pieces within the system. But it didn't always used to be like that. One of the big differences between the eras is how superstars used to emerge. Stone Cold wasn't part of a carefully engineered master plan. He was never meant to become one of the biggest superstars in wrestling history. He caught fire fire with the audience because of his Austin 316 promo. The Rock is another perfect example. When he debuted as Rocky Maivia, we hated him. The chants were brutal. But instead of forcing the character on us, the WWE pivoted. They turned him heel and gave him the freedom on the microphone, and suddenly The Rock was born. Those moments felt organic. Now fast forward to modern day WWE, and it feels like they're trying to ram superstars down our throats. A perfect example of this would be Roman Reigns, who fans rejected for years until eventually we connected with him. We used to feel like we helped create the stars, but now things feel far more controlled. The pushes are mapped out, the storylines are planned months in advance, and everything feels engineered. So because of that, we never really feel like lightning truly strikes. Because another thing that lifelong fans have noticed is how modern day WWE characters feel too much like influencers. Back in the day, WWE stars felt almost untouchable. Stone Cold didn't post daily updates about his workout routine. The Undertaker never broke character outside of the ring. And when someone like Brock Lesnar showed up, it felt like a genuine event because we didn't see him online constantly. There was mystery. There was a separation between the character and real life. And that separation made those wrestlers feel way bigger to us as an audience. But when you compare it to today, all the WWE personalities feel like they constantly live online. Instagram, TikTok, podcasts, vlogs, YouTube channels. Instead of feeling like mythic figures, many of them just feel like people building personal brands. And the most obvious symbol of that shift is probably Logan Paul. We constantly complain about him because he's literally an influencer. Somebody whose fame came from YouTube and social media rather than wrestling. And that is exactly the point. 20 years ago, WWE created personalities so big that they crossed over into other industries. But now, it feels like we bring in influencers from other industries to generate attention. It's the opposite direction. And for a lot of us fans, that shift says everything. Because wrestling used to create megastars, but now it feels like we rent them. Because now, whenever someone starts getting massive reactions, fans don't get excited anymore. We get worried because we've seen it time and time again. Someone catches fire, the crowd loves them, momentum builds, but instead of letting it explode, WWE slows down the push. The energy fades and the momentum disappears. LA Knight is a perfect example of this. The guy has literally been hot for years, and for some reason he's never been pushed into the World Heavyweight Championship scene. That's the difference between eras. Back then, the fans trusted the company to ride the momentum, but today, we're not so sure. Think back to what WWE felt like when those megastars were at their peak. It felt like something bigger had just arrived. Those moments weren't about match quality. They weren't about the perfect storytelling. They were about presence. We believed that those people could take over the whole company at any moment. And sometimes they did. That's what megastars are. They don't just perform on the show, they became the show. And that's the feeling that we as lifelong fans have been chasing ever since. Because modern WWE does have incredible athletes. It does pack arenas and it does have huge production. But something about the product feels smaller. It's controlled, it's predictable. And that's why the same conversation keeps coming up. It's not because fans hate modern WWE, but because we remember what it felt like when the stars were much bigger than the brand, when the chaos felt real, when the personalities exploded onto the screen and the entire industry changed around them. And maybe that's the real difference between then and now. Modern WWE didn't lose talent, it lost the chaos that created the megastars.